and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. The Brazilian Grand Prix has come to a close, and what could be said? I'll tell you exactly what needs to be said. This needs to be the season finale. Always, always, always. Abu Dhabi got a little bit less drabby after the modifications to the circuit, I'll admit, but it's still nothing. It's still not even a patch on Brazil. This was a brilliant, fantastic race weekend with one brand new pole sitter, one brand new race winner. It had everything, didn't it? We had chargers from the field up through the back. We had cars that were at the front, got pushed to the back, came back to the front again. It had its all. It even had a couple of knobheads in the middle as well that we'll get to in a minute, of course. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points, though. They're sometimes on offer. Some drivers that do something extra special during a race weekend, and on the very rare occasion, I award minus points to those drivers that do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Crawl Room standings then. It's on the screen now for you, going into the penultimate Crawl Room of the season. Unbelievable to say that. This season has absolutely flown. Brazil's got the fire back in my belly now, and I cannot wait for next weekend. And I cannot wait for Abu Dhabi and to find out who's finishing where in this championship, because I've got a funny feeling the scores I'm going to award are going to turn this quite literally on its head. I've got some surprising results coming. I'm going to say that. Some surprising results coming. Yep, I know what you're all thinking. I'm going to undisqualify Latifi and score him 6,000 points. And you'd be right. So let's kick things off with the race winner, of course. George of the Russell. Watch out for that win. There he goes. He scores victory. Absolutely phenomenal effort this weekend by George, isn't it? Let's be perfectly honest, right? Qualifying, stuffed it in the gravel accidentally. That was a little bit silly, wasn't it? It was a little bit silly. But it meant he started third for the sprint, got himself to the front for the sprint race, won his sprint race, so that's technically his first ever win, even though of course it doesn't count. And then in the race, it was a commanding victory. He drove so well. He overcame 2 safety cars, a virtual safety car period. He withstood the pressure of Hamilton really, really well at the end there, keeping Lewis out of that DRS zone, which was absolutely crucial with those final few laps remaining. Because once Lewis was in that DRS, I think it would have got him. But he drove so perfectly in that middle sector, wasn't it? It was 2-3 tenths every single time in that middle sector. His car obviously set up a little bit better for the slow speed stuff, and it meant that he got the gap. So when Hamilton could close the gap, it was only ever 1.1. It was so tight, wasn't it? Margins were so fine, but George drove so well. Like I said, discarding the qualifying spin, I mean, if George didn't do it, someone else was going to do it, weren't they? They were pushing to the limit in that last qualifying session because the rain was coming. Someone was going to make a mistake, and George was just the first one to do it. With the conditions that they all faced, I'm not surprised Moore didn't do it earlier as well. So yeah, a bit of a shame it happened, and I am still a big believer in if you cause a red flag, you should have your fastest lap time deleted, because it would be a massive discouragement then, because George would have been 10th, wouldn't he? So I never ever remotely think that George did it on purpose to do that, because obviously I think he was expecting he could have got pole, judging by the pace of the car as well. So, you know, I'm never for once suggesting George did it on purpose, or that any driver in the past has ever done it on purpose as well, but you know, I do think that if you cause a red flag, you get your fastest lap time deleted, and that's life. It should happen. It happens in touring cars, happens in a lot of sports, IndyCar as well, I believe. Yeah, happens in a lot of sports. I think it should just be across the board. It just keeps it fairer, so that it avoids the window of doubt, shall we say, because we're going to come to why I'm mentioning that shortly. But for George Russell, what an incredible effort this weekend, and I'm going to award him 12 points. He's having 12 points, and that might seem like, yeah, I'm scoring the fastest car this weekend, bonus points, but I think George has recovered really well from his shit time since really the off-season, isn't it? Since the summer break, Hamilton has just been pummeling him. He really has. That gap was like 40-odd points between the two of them in George's favour. It shrunk to like 20, 18, something like that. It was closing up really rapidly. And George has had some really ridiculous races, hasn't he? Singapore, Japan he didn't do really well at either, did he? Down in 8th. So there was a really bad patch, and I'm glad he overcame it. And the way he overcame it was by managing to beat his main rival, Lewis Hamilton, in the same equipment. So phenomenal effort, and it is 12 points to George Russell. I am chuffed for him. I am chuffed for Mercedes, and I really hope this momentum carries on into Abu Dhabi and carries on into 2023, because this is what we need now. Ferrari have bottled it. We can see that Ferrari have bottled it. They continue to bottle it. Red Bull don't give a shit about. We'll come to them in a minute. And Mercedes now, I've never been so happy for a Mercedes win. I've got to say that. You know, they deserved it this year. They really have. They've been the nearly people on so many occasions. Zandvoort in particular, of course, with an unfortunate late safety car costing Lewis. You know, they've been there or thereabouts, but this weekend they dominated and thoroughly deserving the victory. George and Mercedes, 12 points. Then we come to Lewis Hamilton, George's teammate, and he had to overcome a lot, didn't he? He really did. He had the incident, of course, with Max Verstappen. My thoughts on that are, it was a racing incident. I've got to be honest with you. I honestly do feel in this situation that 5-second time penalty for Max was harsh. It was harsh. Lewis knew that Max was there all along. Max knows exactly what Lewis is like. Lewis knows exactly what Max is like. And we've seen the battles earlier on in the season between Max and Charles that seems to have a respect. There's just not the respect there between these two. And it showed, because neither of them were prepared to give any room. Max wasn't prepared to back out. Lewis wasn't going to give him any space. It led to the collision. And I honestly think it was a racing incident between two people that really need to sort themselves out. Because that frustrated me, because you think without that incident there, Lewis dropped down to about 9th, didn't he? And then managed to work his way back through. He could have been the victor this weekend. So, you know, it was unfortunate. It was a shame to see that from Lewis. That he just really still... I mean, of course, I know it's still going to be a grudge based on what happened last year. But, you know, I just think that he knows what Max is like. He should have really just let him go and fight another day, because judging by the pace of that Mercedes, it had got him anyway. You know, just it was annoying. It did frustrate me, and I do blame both drivers equally. But judging by the pace of the Mercedes, I think overall Lewis should have just let him go. Just let him go. It's Max, isn't it, for fuck's sake? Just let him go. And that's not to say that I don't think Lewis is weak or doesn't deserve to keep the position. He had every right to defend the position, but when you look at the bigger picture now, that could have been Lewis's win this weekend. And was it not for that? Because of what he overcame, tumbling down to 9th and only finishing just a few seconds behind George because of the safety cars and whatnot. So, yeah, unfortunate and a little bit needless, a little bit silly there by Lewis. But overall, you know, great recovery, second place, thoroughly deserving of it. A 1-2 for Mercedes. Yeah, they've done really well. He had his qualifying wasn't as great, but recovered in the sprint, you know, a bit like George. So it was a front row lockout. And that's where they deserved to be, really, wasn't it? So, for Lewis Hamilton, I am going to award him 8 points. I am knocking him a couple of points off for that incident between himself and Max. Like I say, I would put it down to a racing incident, but you've seen how they've driven when they're not next to each other all season long, and there's a lot more respect with the other drivers. Them two come together, you just know there's going to be a crash, and I think that's a bit of a shame. They need to sort that out. You think going into next year, I really don't expect them to keep doing that. But I fear they're gonna, and that could really cost themselves both championships for next year, potentially. Judging by the pace of both cars now, looks like it could be Mercedes versus Red Bull in 2023. And if they're just going to have this argument and this grudge between each other and a lack of respect where they're just going to keep taking each other out or refusing to give room to each other, it's just going to open the door for George and Checo to bugger off into the distance with it, isn't it? So I really do hope they sort it out. And yeah, 8 points to Lewis Hamilton. His race weekend was faultless. I don't blame him for the poor qualifying because that was caused by George's red flag and then the rain. Then, of course, sprint recovered it fantastically well. In the race, he recovered fantastically well after that silly incident that cost him a couple of points on the cruel room today. So, yeah, 8 points to Lewis Hamilton. Then we come to Carlos Sainz, smooth operator, smooth operator. And that's exactly what he did this weekend, smooth operator. He did the best he could with the equipment he had and the unfortunateness of having a bloody visor strip caught in his rear brake ducts, which set the brake on fire. And could have been an easy early retirement for him. It was lucky that the team spotted it, got him in for a pit stop, took it out, cleared it, and managed to recover to finish third. He was well out of sync with everyone else at that point then, wasn't it? So He was like tied with one arm around his back when it came to battling, wasn't he, unfortunately for Carlos. It put him really out of sync with the rest of the drivers, and the fact that he scored the podium, I think he deserves it. Really, really does. Thoroughly great job there by Carlos. And yeah, just a shame, you know. I think realistically without that issue, and the issues of course for Lewis when he had the contact with Max, I think Sainz would have been hoping for maybe second this weekend, and that was probably the best he was ever going to get. But obviously, things happen, there you go, but he drove so well to recover from the situation he had. Really need to sort these things out with these visors now. These tear-offs are causing a lot of problems, and I remember Martin Brundle in commentary was saying we used to have a box where we had to tear them off and put them in a box inside the cockpit. So it's not hard to do, is it? It's not difficult just to put them somewhere. Maybe that's what they're going to have to look at and reintroduce again, or get something that's like a screen that comes across and wipes, as opposed to having anything to take off at all. The technology's clearly got to be there for it, because we rarely see it in other forms and other championships of brakes catching fire as a result of tear-offs in there. So yeah, big shame. Could have cost Sainz the race. It didn't, and he recovered really well to secure third place for Ferrari and for the team. So yeah, for himself as well, of course. So yeah, it's going to be 9 points to Carlos Sainz this weekend. Great effort, Carlos. Great drive and a great recovery that no one really knew about, but it was a recovery because you were well out of sync with everyone else. 9 points to Carlos Sainz. And then we come to here he is, shalala in his way all the way down to the back of the grid where he was in the barrier and stuffed in the wall. And he was like, going to be another safety car, but somehow he dragged it out that wall, got another wing on it, got another nose on it, and recovered to finish P4. Fantastic effort by Leclerc and by the Ferrari team as well, of course, to give him a speedy-ish pit stop to get him back out there and back into contention. Yeah, overall, this weekend, Leclerc, again, a bit like Sainz, driving with his arm tied around his back. It was an unfortunate weekend for him. Qualifying was piss poor as a result of Ferrari. He had practice. They didn't even know what they were doing in practice. Was it practice 1 or practice 2 where he pitted and they're like, what tyres are we putting on? It's a fucking practice session. Stick anything on it and send it. Like, what the hell? And then in qualifying, they're like, yeah, you're going to be on inters because everyone else is going to be on soft, slick, sticky hot tyres. Yeah, that's right. And then, yeah, he held up Sergio, didn't he? So that was a bit annoying to see, because as soon as he made that first mistake after the finals at the end of Sector 1, starting Sector 2, where he bobbled over the curb, he knew that lap were gone. And he pitted anyway, but he still continued to hold up Perez, which was a little bit annoying in my eyes. Overall, though, for Shalala, it's going to be 9 points to him as well. Again, bit like Sainz. Racing with his hand tied behind his back, Ferrari just fucking up left, right and centre at any given opportunity. They just had to make sure that Leclerc was compromised. And then Lando had to make sure he was compromised as well by stuffing him into the wall and drove really well. So I'm just knocking that 1 point off of him because he held Perez up when he should have let him go, because he knew the lap was over. He knew he was on the wrong tyres. He pitted anyway, didn't finish the lap, so what was the point in holding Perez up any longer than he needed to? A little bit annoying that. But apart from that, fair play to Shalala. 9 points on the cruel room. And then we come to Fernando Alonso securing P5 and 10 points for Alpine. I should be saying phenomenal stuff, shouldn't I? I should be singing his praises. And in some respects I am, because he's recovered well from where we were in the sprint, hasn't he? Unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. So a fantastic qualifying effort for the pair of them, both Alpines. We both got together in turn 4, 5, whatever it is, as we end Sector 1, starting Sector 2, before we go up and into the squiggly section. Contact between the two of them lies firmly with Ocon's hands, that one, but Alonso did well to carry on. And then going up the final corner, the uphill left-hander bit, as we're about to cross the start-finish line, start lap 2, he just drives into the back of Ocon and takes his front wing off, and he ends up starting 17th for the race as a result of that. I mean, recovers fantastically well to 5th, and it does need recognising and does deserve, you know, awarding points for. I think he drove well. But it's a cardinal sin to take out your teammate, and I'm not a fan of it. And it has been boiling over the last few races with these two, not playing the team game with each other, not allowing each other through when the strategy tells them to. Been a bit of bickering, and there seems to be no love lost between them, and it boiled over this weekend to a point where this weekend could have been seriously compromised by Alpine. You look where the McLaren started that race, and look where the Alpine started. It looked like it were advantage McLaren, and only a crazy Brazilian Grand Prix made it otherwise. They need to be really lucky, need to be counting the chickens. I hope there's some stern words said between the two of them, or like, look, you two need to sort it out for the final race. It looks like we've got P4 in the bag now in the constructors, but never say never in this sport, and they've got to work together to make sure that they definitely secure fourth, because they were not working together this weekend, and it seems to be like the Verstappen-Hamilton thing. A lack of respect between drivers, not willing to give each other any room than what's needed, and in fact, Ocon just forced him off. Alonso trying to retaliate, took his own front wing off. Needless. Absolutely needless. So yeah, for Fernando Alonso, it should be maybe, 11, 12 points? He should be getting bonus points for that kind of drive. But the reason why he's starting down in 17th and recovering up to 5th is because of his own stupidity, falling out with his teammate. So for that reason, it's going to be 7.5 on the crawl room. I've deducted him, in my mind, I've deducted him about 4.5 points there to what he should have been getting, really. Because it should have been an impressive drive. I should be singing his praises, and in some respects I'm glad he recovered the weekend, but he shouldn't have had to recover it. There should have been nothing to recover. It should have been strong qualifying, strong sprint race, picking up points there in the sprint, and then picking up the points in the race as well. So he still cost the team points by not finishing inside the top 8 like he should have done in the sprint. So yeah, there you go. 7.5 to Alonso. Great recovery, but I'm still not impressed. And then we come to Max Verstappen.
Hey, 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 you've been disqualified, you bastard.
And there we go. You've been disqualified, you bastard. What was that all about? Unbelievable stuff by Max. I am so wound up. You do not disrespect team orders, let alone do you disrespect them to a teammate that without him, you wouldn't have won the 2021 championship. Without him, you wouldn't have taken wins and been assisted in races this year. And he's blaming it all on what? The fact that he thinks that Perez crashed on purpose in Monaco so that Verstappen couldn't improve his lap. But, what a fucking moron. What a moron. No one is ever above a team. No one is ever above a team. Max Verstappen this year, I thought, has done some incredible things with that car. You know, I really think that this year he's knuckled down, done fantastically well. Not buggered up much, not fucked up much. He seems to have got the swearing on the radio under control. He moaned a bit in Bahrain the first round. I gave him a Palmer for that. And I genuinely thought, this is it now. We've seen the best of Max, and this is what we're going to keep getting. But then just when it doesn't even matter, Constructors wrapped up. His Drivers' Championship wrapped up. No thanks to Perez as well in the helping of that again, as per the norm. And then what do? We just need to let you relinquish a 6th place that Perez let you through for, so you could try and go after Alonso and Leclerc. It didn't happen. Couldn't you let him back through? No, I can't. You can fuck off. I'm not doing this no more. No, I've given my reasons. Never ask me questions like that ever again, because I'm not giving no positions up to Perez. That's not happening. We're not doing that. What a fucking bellend. What a knob. What a knob. And if you try and justify his actions to me in any way, shape or form in the comment section, you're getting blocked, because you're clearly thick. You're deluded. I am not having it. I'm so annoyed and frustrated. And be honest with you, just pissed off. And then the lack of management, once again, from Christian Horner. Oh, we've had a chat about it. You know, it's one of those things. Max has made his points clear, and we'll draw a line under it, and we'll go again in Abu Dhabi. No, you fucking won't. If it were down to me, titles are racked up, getting fucked off. Say, oh, you can have a weekend to think about it, pal. You're not at Abu Dhabi. Fuck off. We'll get someone else in. And if he does well, then we'll think about next year what we do here. But he won't be turning up to Abu Dhabi. If it was me in charge, Max Verstappen would not be turning up to Abu Dhabi. I'd be getting someone else in that car pronto. Get someone else in. Give someone else a try, because there's nothing else to fight for, is there? And now he's saying, oh well, if Checo needs help in Abu Dhabi, I'll give him help in Abu Dhabi. Too late, pal, isn't it? Too late. What a prick. What a prick. So yeah, there you go. Disqualified on the crawl room. He's had a great season. Not done much wrong. Hardly done any damage to the cars. And then this year, he just loses his head. It seems to be the penultimate round. He lost his head in Saudi last year, didn't he? Was that the penultimate round last year? He lost his head there. He's lost his head here. And for what? You know, that stupid move on Hamilton. Like I said, I blame both of them equally as much. There's clearly no respect there between the pair of them either. But Max is thinking, I've got everything wrapped up here. I can go for it. And I fully appreciate that and I respect that. Hamilton's got nothing to lose, but at the same time, he's got more on the line because he wants to win a race this year. You know, Hamilton should have let Max through. I understand why he didn't. Max shouldn't have been such a dick at going for a lunge like that anyway, but at the same time, nothing to lose. Like I said, I blame them both equally as much for that incident. So, but then again, you know, Max is going to think, well, I'd rather not damage the car. You know, he had nothing to prove, nothing to lose. He's had plenty of wins, he's had plenty of podiums. Just keep ticking it off. And then for the fact that he's racing round in 6th and still won't give his teammate the 2 points that Perez needs to finish 2nd in the championship. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Piss poor, pathetic. A child. An absolute child. So yeah, unnecessary damage to a car that he didn't need to do. And didn't give his teammate the crucial 2 points that Max didn't need. Fucking bellend. So yeah, disqualified on the crawl room. And that's the end of that, Max. Then we come to Sergio Perez. Yeah, now we know who he really is. He's shown his true colours, and indeed he has, Checo. He has indeed. We know exactly what he's like now, and I hope you don't help him ever again. Because next year, I think it's going to be really close between Red Bull, Mercedes, and hopefully Ferrari, if they do get it together. But what could we do? What can we do? Because, you know, you can't be playing wingman anymore. I don't think you should. I think it'd be wrong for the team to ask you to play wingman now after he's done that to you. And in all honesty, Checo, you go, drive your own race, fuck him. And if that means that you both don't win a championship and you both don't win a team championship, so be it. Because at the end of the day, Checo, they've made it clear once again that Max is the golden boy, a bit like Seb when he got golden shower. Max is the golden shower now there at Red Bull, can do no wrong, above the team, not going to get punished for it, not going to get annoyed. It's just going to be, oh, Max, oh, I know you weren't very happy, but we're just going to draw a line under it now, aren't we? Nah, fuck that, Checo. You know at any moment you're dispensable, Checo. Max isn't. Max is their golden shower that's going to be there forever and a day. Fucking knobhead. So I just can't be dealing with it. Really can't be dealing with it. And Checo, you've got to grow some balls now, and you've got to refuse every team order that's ever given to you ever again. And no one would ever blame you and ever doubt you for it. If it costs the team a win, costs the team a win. You've done more than enough in 2021 and this year to secure Max 2 titles, to secure the team the first Constructors title in 8 years, whatever it is. So you have got nothing more to prove, Checo. Nothing more. So for this weekend, it's a solid 7 to Sergio Perez. Checo this weekend, solid 7. Unfortunate at the end there to be on the wrong tyres after that final safety car period. He got no more softs left, so it was on the medium, which was a bad tyre to be on. But overall, I don't think it matters, does it really? Really just a big shame for Sergio. Should have been outscoring Leclerc, ended up being outscored by him. And yeah, there we go. It's all bubbling over. It's all come to a head. And for why? Because Max has not got a leg to stand on. He's just a prick. So Sergio Perez, 7 points to him on the crawl room. And yeah, go for it. I hope you secure 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, but I hope it's without any help or assistance from Max, because you're going to pull over and he's going to be like, oh, look at this, look at what I did. Look at what I did. Look at me. Everyone looking at me. No one will ever forget, Max. You can go fuck off, you knob. So yeah. Sergio Perez, 7 points anyway. Then we come to Esteban Ocon securing 8th place after starting down at the back of the grid, or near the back, or 18th or something, wasn't he? But again, he was involved in the tussle with his Alpine teammate, Fernando Alonso. I've already covered it all, really. He shoved Alonso off at the first lap. No respect between teammates at all. No racing room left. Lucky they weren't out on the spot, the pair of them there, because there was certainly damage sustained to Ocon's side pod that then caught fire at the end of the race. And then Alonso arse-ended him. And he was just walking wounded from then on. He'd had 2 rounds with his teammate. One his fault, one his others, one his teammate's fault. And was lucky to secure 8th and 4 points. And yeah, in my mind, had he had that kind of recovery without the incidents with his teammate, I'd have probably been giving him about a 9. So I've docked him 5 points. He's only scoring 4 on the crawl room this weekend, because once again, it's cost his team points in the sprint race, because they should have been inside the top 8 easily, the pair of them. easily, and they weren't because there were knobheads. And then his car caught fire as a result of damage sustained in the incidents between the teammates, making hard work for the team. It's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. He's lucky he's not getting a Palmer. It's just 4 points this weekend, though, to Ocon. I've heavily penalised him, like I have with Alonso. Should be singing his praises, but I'm not, and that's the end of it. A lot of drivers pissed me off this weekend, in case you can't already tell. And then we come to Valtteri Bottas securing 2 points, a crucial 2 points for Alfa Romeo, outscoring Aston Martin. And yeah, Bottas had some great pace this weekend, didn't he? He was looking good in practice. Qualifying, though, all came undone, was just not good in those tricky conditions. He stayed out too long on the inters. He admitted that himself in that first qualifying run. Recovered well, though, to start in a respectable position for the overall race after the sprint. So did well in the sprint, recovered in the race, and was running as high as 5th at certain stages in that race, doing really well. But unfortunately, the way that safety car period came out, bunched the field up. They couldn't pit on quite old tyres, so the likes of course, Alonso, Leclerc and all that lot swept through on him, but securing a solid couple of points here, thoroughly deserving of them, and needed them, massively needed them, and it was great to see him back in the points again. It's going to be a solid 8 points for Valtteri Bottas this weekend. His mistake to be knocked out in Q1 in qualifying, good recovery in the sprint, and then more progress made in the race, and unfortunate at the end there to have the safety car when he did, because without that, Alonso wouldn't be able to put on the fresh tyres without losing more places than he did. And, you know, it was all a bit swings and roundabouts, and it just didn't work out for some. It worked out for others. But in the end, I think overall it still worked out for Bottas because he secured points and outscored Aston Martin. So that was the key and main effort for them to do. 5 points the gap now between Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo, which is going to be quite a big thing for Aston Martin to try and overhaul. But judging by Vettel's pace this weekend, that should have been possible here. So at Abu Dhabi, it remains to be seen, but for now, 8 points for Valtteri Bottas. Securing the final points paying position, it is, of course, Lance Stroll.
10 million overspend? That's nothing. In my 2 years at Renault, they spent that on front wings alone, you bastards.
And there we go, Palmer over the week to Lance Stroll, despite picking up one final crucial point for Aston Martin that could mean that they overall in Abu Dhabi. Him shoving his teammate onto the grass in that sprint race, he was getting a Palmer no matter what he did this weekend. He could have quite easily won the bloody race and he'd have still been getting a Palmer because that was unacceptable. You do not do that on anyone. He's got a 10-second time penalty for it in the sprint. Even Martin Ronald said that was lenient. That was unacceptable, disgusting. You don't do that on anyone, let alone your teammate. Shoved him onto the grass. Lucky again not to take each other out. If Vettel had lost it, it'd have been straight into the side of Stroll. Could have had a massive, scary aeroplane accident there, like we've seen, of course, at USA, which, funnily enough, involves Stroll, didn't it, and Alonso that time around. So, yeah, got to be really, really careful as Stroll, because that was unacceptable. So, yeah, he does pick up a lucky point at the end there. He was on the right strategy to be able to benefit from that final safety car period and take his teammate. But, yeah, that 1 point does not save him from what he did this weekend, which was absolutely disgusting. So, Palmer of the Week 2, Lance Stroll. Just outside the points paying positions, it is of course Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll's teammate, and Seb was unlucky this weekend. He had the measure of Lance all race weekend long, finishing the sprint race in 9th, was running as high as 5th, 6th in the race. Strategy didn't go his way at the end there, did it at all, He ended up dropping like a stone, worse than Bottas. Where Aston Martin looked like they could have been picking up the massive points and securing 6th place in the constructors for themselves. They ended up picking up just 1 point with the wrong driver, really. Vettel should have deserving of points, really, really deserving of points this weekend. To finish 11th must be so frustrating for him and for the team as well, because like I said, at 1 point it looked like he was on for a 6th place finish. So, yeah, unfortunate for Seb there. He did everything right. The strategy I think the strategy overall was correct because he was in good positions, but that final safety car period just really put pay to it. Old tyres at the end, cars behind him on much fresher tyres, dropped like a stone. And that was that. Big shame for Sebastian Vettel. So I'm going to award him 8 points on the crawl room this weekend. I honestly feel like he did the similar sort of job as to what Bottas did. You know, did as good as he could with the tyres he had at the end. Bottas managed to scrape a couple of points. Seb fell out of them, but Seb just drove so well this weekend, and I don't think 11 does him justice at all. 11th place finish is not justice at all. He should have at least been top 8. So yeah, big shame for Aston Martin. Big shame for Sebastian Vettel. But his love is appreciated. I honestly think he drove really well and deserved points. He drove like a point scorer. The car had the pace like a point scorer. But just in the end, it all fell a bit short, didn't it? So big shame. But 8 points to Sebastian Vettel. I love you, Seb. You deserved a lot more this weekend. Then finishing in 12th place, it is Zhou Guanyu, of course, in the Alfa Romeo Sauber. What could be said for his race weekend this weekend? Again, solid, but just not quite as good as Bottas. So Zhou's weekend was pretty much the same as Bottas's, to be fair, wasn't it? You know, both out in Q1, both stayed out on the mediums too long, came to the sprint race, both made good progress through the field, started in pretty much the same row as each other, and then in the race made progress through, finishing 12th. You think, great, brilliant, but there's Bottas finishing 9th, so makes me think that Zhou should have at least been 10th in some respects. Wasn't too sure what Zhou's strategy were in comparison to Bottas. They may have split strategies, and that's what compromised Zhou, but we saw some good racing from Zhou, and I think he did really well. It'd be nice to see him continue. I think he's under the radar, very much under the radar, Zhou. Alfa Romeo's lost that ultimate pace it had at the start of the year, we know that, so he is lucky to scrape the points now. He's on the fringes, but just not quite getting there. So, got to penalise him a little bit for that, especially when Bottas has picked up points in the last couple of races after like a 10-race bout of not scoring any. So, for Zhou Guanyu this weekend, it's 6 points on the crawl room. I think that's a fair score based on where Bottas was and what I awarded him. Always compare yourself to your teammate, of course. But yeah, Zhou overall, I think he deserves the second season. I'm glad he's getting it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in Abu Dhabi and for the next season as well. Overall, yeah, he's had a good rookie season. The only rookie on the grid, so I can't be too harsh on him. But, you know, getting towards the end of the season now, I really hope he scores points in Abu Dhabi. But for now, just 6 points to Zhou Guanyu. Then we come to Mick Schumacher finishing in an unlucky 13th place. And what could be said for Mick's race weekend, really? Didn't start well, did it? Really didn't start well. He's down in 20th. K-Mag's on pole. That is the biggest Haas sandwich I think I've ever seen in my life. He made good progress in the sprint, though, to be fair to him, to start 12th and line up 12th. He was on the fringes of the points then, wasn't he? Running 9th, 10th, that sort of area. Fading away and falling down to 13th. Could have been strategy. Could not have been. It's looking more and more likely that Hülkenberg's going to be taking the seat off of him now, and Mercedes have said that they're interested in signing Mick up as a reserve driver. So, all interesting things to come, but it is really increasingly looking like Mick's not going to be on the grid next year. And considering Tsunoda is, but Mick isn't, I think that's really harsh on Mick, to be fair. I think, you know, again, he's a bit like a Zhou in terms of he's come good while the car's not at its best. So, where he should have been picking up the points, he wasn't. Canada, of course, where he had the failure of the car while running in points, you know. He has had some good races this year, Mick. He really has, and I think he has found the ability in the car now to do well. But overall, Magnussen is just there outshining him every now and again, isn't he? And it's just doing enough to kind of put Mick's efforts at bay a little bit. So, yeah, for Mick Schumacher overall, I'm going to be very harsh with him. It's going to be a harsh 3. And that is purely based on that qualifying. It's got to be. That car had the pace. That car had the pace to get into Q2. It had the pace to get into Q3. K-Mag proved it. Here he is starting 20th. Compromised his entire weekend. Gave him a massive bad luck. I think even if he'd have finished 10th and picked up a point this weekend, people would have still been looking at him going, yeah, but look at what K-Mag did. You know, it set itself up to fail the moment the weekend started for Mick, and it was just because he didn't have the confidence in the car. You know, clearly something went wrong. So, yeah, for Mick Schumacher, just 3 points on the crawl room, and I love Mick to bits. I personally think he deserves another go next year, especially because Tsunoda's getting another go. But yeah, that's life, isn't it? And 3 points to Mick for now. Next up in 14th place, it is, of course, Pierre Gasly.
If I've learnt anything during my time during F1, it's all about who you know and not what you know. I called an old friend and negotiated a deal for next year. I'm now pleased to announce I've signed up for the Silverstone Grand Prix, selling burgers at the back of a van. Ah, bastards.
Well, Pierre picking up another Palmer of the week, and this might seem really harsh because He's not had a bad weekend, has he? And no, he hasn't. Crossing the line in 12th, of course, but a 5-second time penalty dropped him to the 14th. I'm talking about him now. Not that it matters because he was out of the points anyway. But speeding in the pit lane. Now, at the moment, I'm not sure if he's going to get banned for Abu Dhabi or not, because you normally get 2 points for those kind of things, and he's already on 10. And he's scored 10 points on his race licence since May this year. So that means from May till what we're in now, November, he's picked up 10 points. There's a little bit of me thinking he's sped in that pit lane on purpose, trying to score those 2 points, so he gets banned for Abu Dhabi, and then he can start his new Alpine contract in 2023 fresh without a race ban. So let's see what happens there. I'm maybe calling a bit of conspiracy on that, because he's fed up with AlphaTauri, isn't he? AlphaTauri look like they're fed up with him. He's fed up with AlphaTauri. He's fed up with the Red Bull relationship. Wants nothing more to do with it. I bet he's been cut off like nothing since he got announced at Alpine. I bet they've just shut him out of every meeting there's ever been since. He just wants out, and I think he really does need to be careful, because I think he does need the points. In all fairness, I think he's done that to score 2 points, to be banned from Abu Dhabi, get Nick in the car, Nick de Vries, of course. So he gets an extra race and gets to learn the team in a race weekend format. Be brilliant for AlphaTauri. Be brilliant for Gasly, because he gets to start his points afresh again and start his summer season early. So, yeah, his winter break early, I should say. So, yeah, for me, Palmer of the Week worthy, though, once again, to not score points in a car that was looking promising to score points. And when you see the likes of Haas doing well and picking up a couple of points in the sprint and the pace that they had overall, Gasly put some great laps in Quali 1 and some decent laps in Quali 2, but not enough to get into Quali 3, and I think he should have done, really. So yeah, I can't really compare him to his teammate, because Yuki's just awful. But yeah, overall, I think that's what's going to happen. Well, I think that's what he's expecting to happen. That's what, Pierre wants. I think he's honestly wanting 2 points on his race. Oh no, you're joking, I'm banned for Abu Dhabi. Oh well, nice to meet you all, lads. You have a lovely time. It's been a pleasure to work with you over all these years. Thanks for the VINs, thanks for the podiums. It's been absolutely amazing. Much love. Right, Alpine, I'm ready. I've got no points. I think that's all he did it for, in all fairness. But would remain to be seen. That's me being a proper conspiracy theorist there and clutching at straws a little bit, perhaps. But you can't blame him for not being, can you? Does Pierre Gasly really want to take with him to Alpine 10 points on his race licence, where the slightest mistake is going to see him banned from a race on a brand new contract? I don't think he's going to want that, is he? So let's just get rid of him. Let's get rid of him now. I'll have Abu Dhabi off, lads. You're alright. I've not even booked my flight. It's just like I knew it was going to happen. But remain to be seen. Remain to be seen on that one. But yeah, for Pierre Gasly, it's going to be a Palmer of the Week on the Crawl Room. Then we come to Alexander Albon, and what could be said for his race weekend performance. Qualifying was brilliant, wasn't it? 0.04 of a second away from the Q3 time. So started the sprint race in 11th. Tumbled down to around 15th, and then the car broke down on him, so he ended up starting last, 19th in the end, after Tsunoda's pit lane start. So yeah, started 19th in the race, and it just looked like a bit of a pain, didn't it, that car? It just didn't look like it had the pace at all over a race trim to last the distance. So here he is, just finishing in 15th position. It's going to be 6 points on the Crawl Room team. A difficult race weekend to judge. Over one lap in those tricky conditions. It was so close to a Q3 effort. That would have been amazing. Just missed out. And then the sprint race, all came undone. No fault of his own. Car broke down. Better than that in the race, of course. So at least it happened in the sprint, not the main race. And then in the race, little to no progress. But I think that was all down to the car. So yeah. Big shame for Albon this weekend. Promised so much at the start, but in the end delivered so little. But I think that was the Williams car itself, unfortunately, just letting him down this weekend. So 6 points overall to Alex Albon. Then we come to Nicholas Latifi, disqualified on the Cruel Room anyway, so we don't talk about his race. But wow, he was doing shite, wasn't he? He was doing shite once again. Bit like Mexico. 50 seconds behind people. Behind the next car, which was his teammate most of the time. Again, and it's only the safety cars that saved him from being lapped. Because he unlapped himself. Unbelievable stuff. So yeah, Nicholas Latifi, disqualified anyway. Don't talk about his race that much, but God, he was shite again. And then, of course, we come to Yuki Tsunoda, again, disqualified on the crawl room after that race weekend's performance. If he wasn't already, he would have been. I've said that a lot of times about Tsunoda having this weekend, this season. I have said it so much about his performance has been absolutely poor. I do feel a little bit of sympathy for him at the fact that they didn't even recognise him as a back marker, so he was stuck in the pack going, am I allowed to overtake? Well, no, you're not allowed to, because it says car 22 can't overtake. It just says 5 and 6, or, well, 23 and 6, didn't it? Sorry, for Albon and Latifi. He had those two cars, he didn't have Tsunoda, so he was stuck there in about 5th place there, going, yeah, here I am. And he just had to let off the throttle, so he was a lap down on everyone, and his race was over. So I've got a little bit of sympathy for him for that, but why were he a lap down? Why were he that far back? Why was he that far off the bloody pace? You know, I'm criticising Gasly here for trying to deliberately, I think, get 2 points on a race licence. But, you know, he was on the fringes of points, and there's Tsunoda getting lapped. He's not on at all, Yuki. So, yeah, disqualified on the crawl room anyway. Talk more about him than I actually should. I don't know what to expect in Abu Dhabi, probably nothing again, and I really don't know what to expect from him for next year because I don't think he should be there at all. So I'm expecting maybe first 4 or 5 races, get to Spain, still shy, sack him off, get someone else in, is honestly what I'm thinking for AlphaTauri. They can't keep this going. They really can't keep this going with Tsunoda because he's not delivered anything at all this year, has he? So there you go. Disqualified anyway, but there we go. That's enough about that one. And then we come to the last of the retirements. The first on this list, of course, it is Lando Norris.
Hey, don't laugh. In 2014, I was voted Driver of the Year. No, really, I was, you bastards.
And there you have it, the first Palmer of the week of the year to Lando Norris. Because what did he do? He took out Shalala at the start of the race, didn't he? Just understeered straight into the side of him, spat him off into the wall. I thought, this is it, safety car period once again. But no, you know, Leclerc managed to get it going. Fair play to him, and I'm pleased Leclerc managed to recover his race and finish P4. But yeah, Lando Norris, he has to get a Palmer for that, I'm sorry. He has to. That was unacceptable. It wasn't on purpose, admittedly. He just caught the curb and understeered and lazily slid into the side of him. I've given Palmers for the similar sort of situations before in the past, with like Hamilton and Albon and Norris and Perez and things like that, particularly Austria where it happens a lot, where you get the overlapping effect and then someone washes out and tags them. I've awarded Palmers before, and again, I've got to keep it consistent. Not that this series is consistent, but in my mind it's consistent. And Lando Norris, I mean, he'd have only been getting a maximum out of 5 anyway, so he's only really lost 5 points in some respects, I guess. But yeah, Palmer of the Week to Lando Norris. A late retirement, of course, as a result of hydraulics failure issue or electrical. Something massively went wrong with the car, didn't it? And he had to stop. Overcoming a bout of food poisoning as well, let's not forget that. He's not been the wellest of people. So, but again, you know, I have to be consistent. I can't be going bloody sympathy wall on him and giving him 10 points for being a hero. Just doesn't happen like that. So yeah, Palmer of the Week to Lando Norris. Oh, Lando! Then we come to Daniel Ricciardo. Oh my bloody good God. What an awful, awful, awful drive that was. Unbelievable. Just crap. Again, crap. I am not even joking. When he took K-Mag out of the race, and as well as taking himself out, I genuinely uttered these words. My God, just get off the grid already. And that is, I honestly said that, like, I have never ever thought I would ever get that frustrated with Ricciardo. But what a lazy incident that were. Just tapping the back of him like you knew it would. You could see him. You could see him. You'd already made most of the corner and then just went dush. And just tapped him and spun him round. Unbelievable. Get off the grid already. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Of all the people he took out the hero of the weekend, Kevin Magnussen, which it's never a good look, is it, when you take anyone out, let alone the fucking hero of the weekend for Haas, and scoring his first pole position, picking up a point in the sprint race, and then gets punted off by a fucking washed up F1 driver that really just... Yeah, anyway, there you go. So Daniel Ricciardo disqualified on the crawl room anyway, but my God was I annoyed with him when they took K-Mag out, as I think the whole world was. Racing's happening, I know it's racing incidents and they're bound to happen, but you just know that it's going to be the likes of Tsunoda and Ricciardo just involved in these stupid incidents that shouldn't happen, but they do because they've just... they're just not there anymore, I don't think. So yeah, big disappointment for Ricciardo. Ending his season once again with a bit more damage, no points. And the reason why McLaren have lost fourth in the Constructors this year is because of Daniel Ricciardo. You know, Ricciardo's got, what, 20 odd points? Lando's got 100 and odd. It's a massive difference, and Lando's done it. Ricciardo definitely should have done. So yeah, there we go. Disqualified anyway. Big shame that he took out K-Mag. And last but by no means least, it is of course Kevin Magnussen, the hero of the weekend, as I've already discussed there whilst talking about Daniel Ricciardo. What a trooper he was. He has done fantastically well, hasn't he? Securing that pole position on merit. I don't give a shit about the fact it was damp and it was raining. There was 8 drivers there in that final qualifying session that got their laps in. And it was Magnussen on top. And he thoroughly deserved that pole position. He did a great job to pick up that point in the sprint race. A crucial point between him and AlphaTauri. That's 2 points the gap now between AlphaTauri and Haas going into the final race. If Gasly gets it together, if he's not penalised, that is, of course, then yeah, a couple of points and 9th place. I think they maybe need 8th though, wouldn't they, actually, because of the way, Haas had a 5th place finish. So I'm thinking they need to get 8th, AlphaTauri. I'm thinking this on my feet now, so I might be wrong, but I think they're going to have to actually outscore and not match the score to beat, if that makes sense. So there we go. That's enough of that. We'll cover that basis when and if we need to come to it. But yeah, that could be a crucial point that he picked up in the sprint race for K-Mag, and it all came undone as a result of Ricciardo's laziness and chances of being in Formula 1 diminishing by the second. And then that really just was the final nail in the coffin. I don't think we'll see Ricciardo again after Abu Dhabi, to be honest with you. He might be in the paddock doing a bit of punditry, but I can't see him back in an F1 car competitively again. K-Mag, what can I do? I normally only score retirements a maximum of 5 points, don't I? I've broken the rule twice this year. Once with Zhou Guanyu for his many retirements that he kept having while having a good race. And of course I awarded 10 points to George Russell when he jumped out of the car to look after Zhou Guanyu while the medics arrived after the big incident at Silverstone. And I'm going to break my own rule for the 3rd time this year, and I don't think anyone will be begrudging me of that. Kevin Magnussen is going to be scoring 10 points on the Cruel Room this weekend. A phenomenal, incredible debut pole position, the first for the team, the first for Kevin Magnussen. A crucial point in the sprint race, did all he could there. It'd have been nice to see him 7th, not 8th though, wouldn't it? Just losing out to Lando at the end. But when all's said and done, Kevin Magnussen, I'm confident would have been in the points at the end of that race had it all gone his way. So yeah, there we go. 10 points to Kevin Magnussen. Breaking my own rule for the 3rd time, don't shoot me. But he deserved it, didn't he? He really did. So anyway, guys and girls, those were the runners and riders of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high? Any too low? The results are on the screen now. Take a look at the updated scoreboard. I told you it would flip on its head. And boy, oh boy, George Russell. Will he win the title now? He's gone back right to the front with quite a hefty lead. But if he does something silly, it could see himself getting disqualified, or a Palmer. It's all to play for. It still is all to play for. Genuinely, it's all going to be in the hands of the drivers come Abu Dhabi. It's looking like Russell's the favourite now, isn't he? Recovered it well after Lando's Palmer and Max's disqualification. But like I always say, do not piss me off, because the cruel room bites you. The cruel room bites you. As always, a massive thanks go out to Dan of Mushy Gaming for providing me with the scoreboard that you're seeing on screen now, the driver icons at the side as I talk about each driver, and the intro, of course. Without him, this series will be more pointless than it already is. And who can forget Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for the Jolie and Palmer skits that you all know and love by now. I'll see you all next Tuesday for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final round of the season. The champion will be crowned on the Cruel Room as well, of course. All in the same episode, so it's going to be scores and then awards. Who is the runner-up? Who's the winner? You're going to get the full list of 20 rundown from me at the end of the video. Who is finishing where in this Cruel Room Championship? I cannot wait. It's been a great season, hasn't it? So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next Tuesday. Gonna be good. I can feel it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, much love.